This is ODAT Chat, your instant connection to recovery and community, one day at a time. This podcast may contain strong language, sexual content, and spiritual truth. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey friend, welcome to another episode of the ODAT Chat podcast. I'm so grateful you're joining me today. If you're new here, my name is Arlena and I'll be your host. This is a podcast where my guests and I talk about how to recover from alcoholism and addiction. I'm looking to uncover the causes and conditions of addiction, the lessons learned along the way, and the tools and practices which lead to long-term recovery. If you'd like more information about the podcast, past guests, or put a buck in the basket by making a donation, visit the website at odatchat.com, and ODAT is spelled O-D-A-A-T. Every week I do a sobriety birthday spotlight, so today I'd like to give a shout out to a former guest, Kevin F., such a dear friend. So to those of us who go to the daily 6 a.m. ODAT meeting, we like to refer to Kevin as the mayor. He's always in service, he's always welcoming, and everybody loves him. And he got sober on January 2nd, 2012. That is, I think, the coolest sobriety number ever, 1212. So if you know someone who would enjoy the sobriety birthday spotlight, you can message me through the ODAT Chat Facebook group. So today my guest is Noelle Van Oh my gosh, let me see if I can say this right. Noelle Van Vlierbergen. Wow, sorry about that, Noelle. She's the author of the DayBook and the Sober Leap Practical Wisdom to Create an Amazing Life Beyond Addiction. You can find her at daybydaybook.com. So, but first, since everyone seems to be setting health goals this time of year, I have a great resource for you. So it's a dietary program called Metabolic Balance. It's not shakes or pills. It's a tailored meal plan based on what's good for your specific body, based on a blood test to restore your metabolism. So when your metabolism is restored, inflammation is reduced, and people tend to lose a significant amount of weight. So back in July, I actually took the blood test and had it analyzed to identify which foods were best for my specific body chemistry. And I was on it I've actually been on it since July, so I've lost a total of 18 pounds. The majority of the weight came off in about the first 6 weeks. So the meal plan was developed for me. Answered the 3 big questions I always had, which is what to eat, how much, and when. It takes all the guesswork out for me, and it taught me how to take care of my body as it is now, which is very different from the body I had 10 years ago, if you know what I'm saying. So my husband, Bob, has actually lost over 47 pounds, and his life was so changed that he started his own nutrition practice and is now working with a group on their health goals. So there's actually a new group starting mid-January, and if you sign up by January 5th, you'll receive $100 off. Just visit mymetabolicdiet.com or message me through the ODAT Chat Facebook page for more information. Okay, so back to the intro. My guest today is Noelle, as I said before, and right off the bat, I have to apologize for being so chatty in this interview. I think I just had way too much coffee. Anyway, she's amazing. She's already had written these 2 books and published a great recovery planner called the DayBook. I was going to try to explain it, but her website actually says it best. Her website says, this planner is the first ever guided planner created specifically for your recovery. If bearing your soul on a blank page has never been your thing and logging productivity is a drag, you'll love the DayBook. It's a formulated and fun approach to celebrating progress, cultivating self-awareness, and creating a joy-filled life. Isn't that cool? Who doesn't want a joy-filled life? And what I really like is that it's focused on solutions and making forward progress. You can find it online at daybydaybook.com. Noelle is a very kind and compassionate woman. I am grateful she took the time to let us into her world today. So with that, please enjoy this conversation with Noelle. Well, Noelle, welcome to the ODAT Chat podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
How funny is it that we're neighbors and didn't even know it?
I know. It's crazy. And we're only like blocks away from each other.
Yeah. And I found you at the Beverly Hilton in LA.
I know. It's kismet.
Yes. So we were at the She Recovers event. I've spoken about it on the podcast many times, which was an amazing event.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
So, and that's where we met. And so I met you because you had a booth where you were talking about your day-by-day book, which, how would you describe it?
So I would describe it as a guided planner. So I created the book because I had a lot of clients who didn't like to journal. So I wanted to create something that I could offer prompts for them.
I hear that all the time.
I know. And it's funny because you either have people that love it or that really have a hard time looking at the blank page, right? So I had a lot of clients that would come to me and say, like, I would love to journal, but it's just I can't get into it. So I figured, if I could really create something that could help them connect the dots, and it had a more purposeful
it has a structure.
Yeah.
It's a structure, so it's like fill in the blanks.
Exactly. It's kind of like, I think of it as like a bit of not a system, but it's a way to really track your moods, your activities. So you're looking at kind of your emotional ups and downs, and you're kind of figuring out trends. And then at the end of the week, you can take a look back and say, okay, so I had a good week, I had a not so good week. We'd have a lot of conversations where I'd ask them how their week went, and it would be very sort of general. And so if you can go back and actually say, well, actually on Monday and Tuesday, I wasn't having a great time. And then taking a look at the activities or the things that you were doing during that time, that might have been triggers, might have been things that have caused you to kind of, not have such a great day.
That is brilliant because I find that, especially when I'm working with other women in recovery, they'll say, I don't feel good. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, what happened yesterday?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, this happened. And they're like, oh, okay, this is what, because we tend to, especially people in recovery, we spend a lot of time and energy disconnecting from our feelings.
Absolutely.
That when we feel bad, we don't know why.
Exactly.
It's not a mystery why we're confused about why we feel like crap all the time. It's because we've spent a lot of time and energy disconnecting.
Yes. And I do think it's back to that awareness, right? It's a self-awareness that we aren't used to because we, like you said, we kind of like to sort of...
We are actively trying to be in denial.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what's helpful is when you can actually look at data. I don't know, there's something about when I can look at the end of the week and say, okay, these are the kinds of things that were happening. I look at it from a more objective place too.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think
it's in black and white.
Exactly.
Peter Drucker is like this hugely famous business person who said whatever can be measured can be improved.
Ooh, I love that.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had better words to describe how amazing Peter Drucker is. He's like...
I've got to look him up.
Look him up. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to do him justice, but he's like an amazing business person who has the credentials that, rival Bill Gates and...
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
okay,
all those
so
guys.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah. He's a real smart guy. What can be measured can be managed. Right? And
that kind of puts the control back in your hands, which I like.
Power. There's the power.
Because when you think about being proactive and being proactive about how you're getting through your day, getting through your week, getting through your month, there is something about that finally you kind of get the ball back in a way.
Yeah. And so much of what we hear in recovery is around what are we powerless over, right? But what is really interesting to me is what am I powerful? Where am I powerful? Where do I have control?
Totally.
We say the serenity prayer all the time, and it's like the courage to manage the things I can. Not manage. What's the word? I don't know.
I don't know.
To say the whole prayer to figure it out.
To manage, to accept, to...
Yeah. Anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So where do I have control? Where do I have the power? What can I do? I know what I can't do. I can't do drugs and alcohol.
Right.
But what can I do?
Yeah.
I can't control other people. But so I really like this through the lens of let's get very specific about and managing our feelings, right? I talk about emotion management all the time. This is a great tool to start tracking, to get connected again to our feelings. Our feelings are not our enemy.
Exactly.
So
took me a long time to recognize that that's not a scary place, right?
That it's not a scary place.
Yeah.
And so we're sort of jumping ahead because I really want to know what your story is. Like, how did we even get here, right?
How did we get here? It's a good question.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. So usually I ask people what they look like.
Okay.
Is that rude?
What do I look like?
Well, it's a podcast, so we'll put a picture
Oh,
of
okay,
you.
yeah. Well, let's see. I have blue eyes.
You're teeny. I'm 5'3", and you're shorter
We're
than
like
me.
this. I was gonna say we're almost the same. I
Yeah.
always think that I'm taller than I actually am. I'm only 5 feet.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
You're so tight I can put you in my pocket.
So I'm a shorty.
Are you Irish?
I am very Irish. I'm Irish and Dutch. Well, the last name is Dutch. You can take it along.
How do you say your last name?
Van Vlierbergen.
I am so grateful I didn't try to attempt that.
It's a tongue twister. People love it.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. I'm just going to call you Noelle.
You can just call me Noelle. And it's really, most people say like Noelle Van because they just don't want to deal with it. It's totally
Noelle
fine.
V. Super lazy. Noelle VV.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's amazing. Okay, so your cute little thing I can put in my pocket. Your dad was a leprechaun?
No, my dad was not a leprechaun. Although he's a very cheerful man.
Very cheerful.
So, yes.
Okay, and that's usually... Oh, okay, but let's start... What do you do professionally?
So I am a recovery coach.
I know you wear many hats. Yeah, recovery coach.
Yes, I am a recovery coach. Integrative nutrition coach.
Integrative nutrition.
Many years ago, yes, I got my certification in, which has actually helped in the recovery side of things because as we were just talking about,
we abuse our bodies, and so we need to get our bodies healthy again.
Yeah,
super
the nutritional
important.
piece is really key.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have had a background in HR for the past 25 years.
We're in Silicon Valley.
Coaching. Yes.
So you don't have to name names.
Right.
But
have been
you're
doing
in
that.
it.
I'm in it.
We're right with you right there. I was going to say, get me out. I mean, it's so attractive because, corporate America, there's a lot of money in corporate America. And there's a lot of shiny objects in corporate America that draw us to it. But it is a soul-sucking siege of
it is, but
bullshit.
What is so interesting to me, and I think just in my role and what I do, it has really pulled me closer toward the recovery coaching because being in HR and seeing behind the scenes of things that happen within all industries that I've been involved in, there's a lot of stress in the workplace, and there's a lot of people that go to unhealthy places to really sort of cope with that.
Right. So we think, and I was in HR for a short time, as we chatted about earlier. But HR, I sort of think of HR as the rules police. But
I hope that most people don't think of us that way anymore. But yes, I know what you're saying, though. Yeah,
I'm just bitter. don't mind me. I'm probably not a fair representation of the larger populace. But HR is where people are shuffled off to in secret when the wheels fall off. So I bet you see, we try to pretend like we're robots in corporate America, but we are not.
Yeah, that was a very insightful thing that you just said, because you're right. We see the other side to things that can be really debilitating to people, and that most people don't see, and that
what are you seeing? Like, you don't have to out anyone.
No, I was going to say, I think there has been more of a pervasive, just an inability for people to handle stress. The more, I think we're in an age now, the technology age, where things are happening a mile a minute, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of high stress, and there's a lot of women that I work with in the workplace that are really trying to make their way up the rung. And so it's like, it can be pretty brutal. And I think what I like to do, and what I think I do in my recovery coaching in particular, is I work with women who really are trying to find their voice and really trying to kind of change things from the inside in order to then affect things on the outside. So you've got people that are super success driven, but they're not really paying attention to themselves. And until they can get vulnerable with themselves and really understand what's going on, they're not going to probably get to that next step. So there's this really interesting, I think, sort of thing at play here, where you have women that are in the workforce that are really striving to get to a particular place, and they kind of need to look within a little bit
that's
in order to do that.
self-examination.
Yeah. And we, you know, from an HR perspective, I do a lot of coaching just around that with people, which is not probably your typical HR conversation, but there's times that it kind of gets to that place where people need to go, okay, am I happy here? What is this level of stress something that is now becoming debilitating toward me? Or what are the kinds of things I can do, just tweaks that I can make and changes I can make to really help with that?
That's really, you know, and that reminds me of a little bit of Tara Moore, who was at, actually, I forgot that, she was actually at She Recovers, and she spoke there, but she wrote that book, Playing Big, that really is addressed towards women who are trying to find their voice in the workplace. Yeah,
it's really prevalent that you see that. And I feel like, you know, when I work with women in recovery, we're at a place that I feel like we have had challenges all of our lives, right? To really be able to not voice our opinion. Some people are better at it than others, but just finding our voice to whatever degree that looks like, right? It's not about getting up in front of 200 people. It's about just speaking your mind and telling your truth. And I think we struggle with that as we grow as women, right? So when you're in recovery, you're in this really raw place.
Oh, yeah.
And now we kind of have to backtrack and get to a place where we can really create that courage and gain the courage to do it. So it's fascinating to me because I feel like I think women are amazing. I mean, I just really do. Yeah. I think we have a strength that we just don't even know about half the time. So it's really, I think it's an important thing for us to help each other and support each other in finding that.
Yeah. And maybe we can talk a little bit. We'll circle back. I want to circle back to that. If there is a process to finding your voice, because I hear that a lot from women early in recovery where they're just so shut down. And, you know, there's the type of woman, seems like two extremes. The one who is just really gregarious and out there and the steamroller and ambitious. And then there's the other extreme where people have been so shut down or so passed over or looked over, like people learn to shut their feelings down. They don't ask for what they need, that they've lost their voice.
Yes.
In relationship, at work. So helping women find their voice, that's huge. And I'm sure there might be a little process to there.
Well, I mean, and when you think about...
I'm going to have you speak a little louder.
Oh, okay. Sorry, am I being low? When you think about just addiction in general, that really sort of dampers down things too. So if you're not prone to being that way, and then you're in an addictive sort of place, that becomes less and less likely for you to do, right? So once you come out in recovery, I say coming out, but, you know, once you present yourself as, you know, that someone who's recovering, it's you have to really kind of learn to do that. It's like relearning something that maybe you didn't really know how to do in the first place.
Right.
So,
So let's talk a little bit about that. I'm going to circle back. I'm going to put a pin in that.
Okay.
What I really want to know is, you know, it's a recovery podcast, and in my mind, it's like when people don't get drawn to drugs and alcohol unless there is like some kind of pain. And and that typically happens in childhood. So maybe you can just share with me. We want to be respectful of your family, and nobody wants to. I get no parent bashing.
Right.
Sometimes there are things that happen that you know are painful. And whether it's just our perception of the situation, but I think it's important to sort of talk about that. So I do want to ask you about your family of origin. You know, like maybe you can just share with me. What your parents were like what did dad do for a living? You have siblings, things like that.
Right. So I grew up in a family of 4 kids. I was the caboose, the baby. And I lived in Chicago, suburb outside of Chicago.
Chicago, okay.
My father was a corporate attorney.
Oh, smart guy.
Yeah, smart guy. My mom actually worked for Northwestern University, so she was
another smarty pants.
She was actually a psychologist, and then actually did work with students, did like career counseling with students as she got into the program more. But and so very interesting. My parents are very well educated, love reading, love just immersing themselves with culture, which has been, to me, has been one of like the things that I love the most about my family, because I go home and it's like the whole house is just filled with I don't know. There's just, my parents are always into documentaries and things like that. And
nice.
so anyways, I've always felt like I've
Curious
had,
people.
curious, a lot of learning going on in my
Yeah, I
house.
love that.
Yeah. So, growing up though, I have to say, and this is funny because I feel like if people knew me now, like they would never realize what a terror I was when I was a child. I mean, I was
Are you
really,
serious?
I was a terror.
You
I
seem
was
so mild-mannered.
I think I ditched. I
You
think
were
I
a
ditched.
terror?
I ditched school like in second grade. Okay, I'm just saying it was. I was not a pleasant kid, but I was also. I had a lot of sort of pent up anxiety around what was going on in my house because I had a father that was a drinker, and there wasn't a lot of acknowledgement around that. So I saw a lot of things happening, but then sort of not really being recognized as happening.
What was happening?
Just, the behavior that happens with parents that...
Was your dad loud?
No, he was actually he was a very pleasant guy when he drank. He just drank a lot and had a lot of... That was kind of his way to cope. He worked really long hours.
It's a stressful job.
Very stressful job. And just that's kind of how he coped. So I always saw that, but that to me, I knew something wasn't right. And so there was this time and place, I think, that
what was painful about seeing your dad drink?
Oh gosh, just checking out.
Like he was absent?
Yeah,
emotionally?
it felt he was when he was on, but when he was drinking, it was like he kind of went into another room.
Oh, okay.
So
and he was working a lot. So
he was working a ton.
It was really needing your father's attention, and
and just so I found that you go through that angry phase when you're younger because you don't really know what's going on, and you kind of everybody in a family dynamic deals with things differently, and I was the angry one apparently.
Yeah.
But as I got older, which was so crazy to me because of course the behavior that I was so upset about when I was younger, I kind of moved right into that. And in my early 20s, I can literally remember I was living alone in San Francisco. I had a studio apartment, and I remember coming home with a bottle of wine that I had bought. And I can remember literally thinking to myself, this isn't right.
Really?
Because I had been a social drinker all through my 20s, right? And it was probably in my late 20s when this happened. Because it was like I was going to open the bottle and I was drinking alone. And that to me was like, that I knew I was going over to another side.
You told yourself you'd never drink alone, or did you
just,
have
I don't know. I
ideas?
guess I just always had this idea that
We hear it
that
everywhere.
would be like you told. And I mean, I was a very insular drinker. So I drank a lot on my own. But then if I went out with friends, I would actually go out with friends. I probably wouldn't drink that much. And then I'd come home and I'd drink a bunch.
Oh, interesting.
So it was kind of this really very sort of isolated way of coping. And it dummied down all of that anger for me, right? So like I just kind of didn't feel for about 8.5 years. I just literally checked out.
We disconnect from our feelings.
Yeah. And so it's so interesting now that I look back 7 years into sobriety, I look back at it and go, wow, okay, I totally understand what I was doing there. I went from a very tumultuous experience in growing up, and then I kind of did whatever I could to sort of keep that at bay as I got older, because it just wasn't easy to deal with. And
It's not.
Yeah.
How did your mom handle, so your dad was sort of absent?
I love my mom. I mean, my mom was so good about trying to kind of keep that at bay and try and keep her kids in a place that was a healthy emotional state, as most mothers would do in that kind of a situation. I think their relationship was something that was really interesting to watch, because now as they're older, I mean, my mother's 80th birthday is today. Okay.
Today?
Which is wonderful.
Aw, happy birthday, Mom.
Yes. And she and my father, their relationship has just grown immensely since, they were,
Is he older than her?
He's 83.
Okay.
Pretty
close.
Yeah, but they travel every year. They go to Paris. They go all over the place. They are like,
great.
So they're definitely a couple that I envy in a lot of ways, and yet I know that there was a lot of things that have happened and had to transpire to get them to that place.
Right.
And I'm sure, as in any kind of relationship, they have their memories of those too. But
I'm sure,
how I've experienced it, it's like, So it's been interesting because now that I'm older and I see my father as an adult, and they're super supportive of me. And I think although my father would never really admit to having a serious problem.
It's not a problem for him.
Not a problem for him. Yeah. No, I mean, he used to say, I just like to drink.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you argue with that? Like, what can you say to someone that they're just like, hey, I mean, it's, it's kind of out in the open. That's how it is. Now, granted, I think as an adult, it's easier to say things to them than when you're 11.
Well, that's the thing. It's not. That's the thing about being a child is you don't have the words to be able to articulate how someone else's behavior is affecting you.
Yes.
But I think the most powerful statements we can make are the I feel.
Yeah.
I miss you. I'm sad that we don't spend time together. I feel angry that we're not spending time together. I don't feel loved, or you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, you don't feel loved. Why? And it's like, well, you're always busy drinking.
Right. But isn't it funny how I feel like now at our age, you look back on that and go, gosh, wouldn't that be great to have been able to find those words?
I know.
And I think back, I've done many a workshop, right? We all have done our share of therapy workshops. And I can remember thinking like, gosh, if I could go back to that place, it just makes me like sad to think about.
Yeah, what would you say?
I would be really open about it. Because I think when I think of my father and I realize what an amazing dad he was. I mean, he truly, my father is he's still alive. Just an amazing man who would do anything for his kids. I mean, truly. I know that would be important for him to hear. And I know that at some point I'll need to sit down and actually have a conversation with him about that.
Yeah.
That still has yet to happen.
You haven't talked to him about it?
Here and there, but not in the way that I'd like to.
Okay, what's holding you back?
I don't know.
You're scared.
It's weird.
You don't want to hurt his feelings?
Yeah, there's a bit about
He's
that.
83
I know. Isn't it crazy?
My dad's the same age.
Yeah.
My dad's the same age.
Yeah.
And they're, fragile, for lack of a better words. It's like, so much time has gone by. It's like, I don't really want to hurt him with.
Yeah.
But there are things that I have said to my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that have gone well.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear because I've yet to experience it.
Yeah, and I think it's how, for me, it was how I framed it to him. Yeah. So, okay. So that's, we'll put that part behind us. But so, you started behaving in a way with the drinking in your early 20s in a way that...
Yes. It was probably, I was going to say late 20s. Because it was right in my 30s was kind of the...
You never started drinking in high school or anything?
Oh, God. Oh, are you kidding? Yes. Oh, 14, I think we started drinking.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about the first drink.
Oh, gosh. You know what? My best friend and I had... we were at my house. It was in the summertime. I mean, I really vividly remember this. Mm-hmm. And we were drinking beer, which of course tasted awful at the time. I can still kind of feel like I can taste that taste.
Know,
it was just like, hot summer, like Chicago hot summer, right?
Okay.
And I remember just feeling like, wow, this is really... I think I felt like it was a really great thing, although I was still very... I mean, when you have your first drink and you first get drunk, you don't know what's going on. So it's a little scary, but I can remember us lying on the back in the backyard, just looking up at the stars and me being like, oh my God, this is really cool. But like we were hellions. I mean,
were you real? I just can't see.
I'm telling you,
give me an example of a hellion.
We would have parties, high school parties, where we would go and we'd have cab drivers. This is so funny. We would have cab drivers you would pay the cab driver to go to the liquor store, pick up cases of beer, bring the. I mean, this was like crazy, and this was going on, like suburbs of Chicago. Yes, and now I look back on it, I'm like, I mean, I have friends of mine that have kids that age. I'm like, were they doing? And they do nothing like that. I don't think anymore, but maybe they do. Maybe we don't know.
Oh well, we're in such a legalistic society now. I think people are less likely
they're not like hiding beer cans.
But can I just say that is genius? That is genius.
I'm telling you, we were very reresourceful kids.
Damn it!
Isn't that crazy? Like
that is crazy.
I look back on that and I go, wow. I mean, we started young. We started young.
Did you say 14? Am I imagining that?
Well, wait. Is that 14, 15? You're like late to high school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like freshman?
Yeah, freshman.
Yeah, I was going to say I have a freshman.
That was
He's 1450. You know? Our kids are so sheltered. It's ridiculous. They go to a private Christian school.
Oh, see, that's perfect.
Yeah, it's far away. So I drive them to school. I pick them up from school.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, completely
So
sheltered.
you got a good system going
I have a
there.
system.
You
I think
do.
it's because I've learned from experience.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. So, okay,
I know.
you used
So
the
we were early starters.
alcohol
I
delivery
think-
system.
Yes.
Genius.
Yes, and all through high school, college. Then I moved out to San Francisco, and was my 20s is just like anybody's 20s, right? We were drinkers and hanging out, socializing.
You were in college?
I was in college.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to KU,
Okay.
University of Kansas in Lawrence.
Kansas.
Fun school. Everybody says
Was
Kansas
it?
is so flat, but it's not.
Flat
Lawrence,
but fun.
Lawrence happens to have hills.
Oh.
Who would have thought?
I don't know.
I know, yeah. So that was fun. And
No,
a lot of-
no, I haven't heard any negative consequences.
Okay, so this is what's interesting. Well, there were negative consequences as far as relationships were concerned. Like, I did not have very healthy relationships.
Romantic relationships
Yeah.
or friendships?
Romantic
Do
relationships.
you have good girlfriends?
Great girlfriends.
Okay.
Great girlfriends and friends that I've still kept since high school.
great.
Like that. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely got a good network of kind of past and present friends that I've kept out here
Okay.
in San Francisco. But
It
no,
was the
as far as romantic relationships,
relationships.
I always picked the guy that drank the most.
Like Debbie.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It's a family of origin.
It totally is. Totally
That's what we
is.
learn. That's how we learn what love feels like.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you go after the drinkers.
Go after the drinkers, party boys. They were always the funnest ones, but then at the end, not so fun. But yeah, and so that was kind of my negative consequences, though, I have to say. I was not dancing on tables. I was not up at the bar, like, dancing on the bar kind of thing.
Hurrying around, as we say.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
None of that.
Okay.
Mine was more insidious, I felt like. It was much more of a slow sort of self-destructive behavior that happened behind closed doors a lot.
What? Like what? Self-destructive?
Just drinking a lot by myself. Being really sad and drinking by myself.
Yeah.
I mean,
sad drinking
and
by
that's kind of, it's the kind of thing that, and I think what triggered the heavy drinking was kind of breaking off a relationship that I had been in for a number of years. That was really difficult, but it was really toxic. And that was kind of the first time that I really decided I needed to stop and start taking care of myself, which of course meant drinking.
Right.
To me, that was drinking and kind of trying to sort of heal what I felt was my wounds at the time. And that's, when people always say, oh, I hit my bottom, my bottom was very subtle. And so it took a long time to get there.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
So it was really the toxic relationships that brought you to your
That brought me
knees.
to a place where I
Because
needed to kind of self-medicate a lot.
That'll break your
Or
heart. I mean,
felt I needed
a
to.
broken heart is a huge trigger for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So can you describe for me what happened? Like, what happened in that relationship? That, like, in what ways was it toxic?
Just very ill-defined. And so there was a lot of roller coasters back and forth of,
What
just
does
a
ill-def-
roller coaster.
What does ill-define? Oh, okay.
It was.
We'll
a
just
long-
skip that part.
It's way too involved to cover in 5 minutes, but
Okay.
it was ill-defined, and so
Okay.
it became kind of a. You know how I described to you when I was growing up and I was with my father would not really acknowledge things were happening. There was a relationship that would happen, and then it would be not acknowledged that there was actually things happening there in a romantic way,
Okay.
and so it was a denial kind of thing that
Okay.
sort of made me feel a little crazy.
But it was reminiscent of your childhood experience.
Yes. Now that I look back on it,
Right.
absolutely. I was drawn to that sort of inability inability to connect. So like he had a total inability
To connect.
to connect.
A fear of intimacy.
And I
or
kept like it was
chasing.
that. Yes.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
Now that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, so you're basically recreating your relationship with your father in a sense, because that's what love felt like.
Yes.
Is you chasing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny too, because like you have that perspective now of like,
Right.
what was I thinking?
But
And
while
what was
you're in it, you can't see it.
complete and always feeling it's you. It's like it's all about me. It's all
Right,
about
I'm
what did I not
bad.
do and why why was
Why
I
am I
able to
not
get
good
that?
enough?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that, did you have like so your self-esteem must have been taken quite a
Oh,
battering.
bit of a hit.
Yeah.
Bit of a hit. And then after that sort of pivotal relationship, I went back to it, right? I wasn't done yet.
Okay.
I then probably had a couple other sort of relationships with guys that were just not there. They were checked out.
Similar. Yeah.
So the same thing. It's almost like cookie cutter, then you know how that ends.
Sure.
Not well.
Yeah.
And so it was a period of like, I think it was a period of a lot of ups and downs that I didn't really want to deal with.
Right. You're like, how do I get off of this roller coaster?
Totally.
Yeah. No, they say that a lesson is repeated until it's learned. And then
I think I definitely repeated it a couple times.
Yeah, but I also, I was just talking about this with someone, and they told me, how many chances does a baby get to learn how to walk? Well, they get as many chances as they need.
Right.
Right, until they learn whatever it is that they need to learn how to walk. And I feel like that's true in relationship, that we are presented with the same until we are able to get the lesson.
Right.
Right. And so you were going through this dynamic of chasing and then feeling like it was your fault, and then your self-esteem.
And kind of taking that on.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then so how did you get out of that?
How did I get out of that? I think I finally decided I needed to stop the madness. Like the way I stopped drinking was not any kind of crazy night that I mean, of course I was extremely hungover the day that I decided to stop. let's be honest.
Yeah, there's that.
Come on.
Yeah.
But and I can remember this. It was on Thanksgiving. I was at a friend of mine's house on Thanksgiving. The day after Thanksgiving is when I quit.
Got it.
And I can remember like seeing that there were still half drunk glasses of wine on the table. And we had gone into the other room to do something else. And I can remember thinking, I want to go back in there.
Finish the line.
I want to go back in there.
Yeah.
And then it was like, this is really effed up.
Yeah.
And it's the moment of clarity. I swear to you.
You had a moment of clarity.
It was a moment of clarity of like, and I had had several moments of clarity. Let me be specific, because I had several times before then that I would have a instant of like, whoa, this isn't good. Or I feel really sick, because I had hypoglycemia all my life. And that would, my hangovers were like serious hangovers.
Okay.
So from a physical standpoint, I was deteriorating. I really could feel it. I was getting sicker and sicker. So that part of it had a little bit to play in the final saying of like, no, this is it. This is time.
You were having some pretty serious health consequences.
Yeah. I think if I had kept, I have no doubt in my mind, if I had kept drinking, that I would have been in a really, really bad place.
Yeah.
So I thank God that did not happen, and that I got to a place of clarity in a way. I always look at when people say that they hit rock bottom and they get to a really bad place and that just makes them decide. I say, you know what? There are two different ways to get there. The way I got there, when I stopped drinking, people didn't even really know that I had been drinking, right?
Isn't that funny? You were able to just keep it hidden. Well,
which in a way is harder, because then you're sort of saying you have to stop, and nobody gets why you had to stop. They're like, what are you talking about?
You don't even want to stop, and nobody around you is encouraging you.
Exactly. So there's that support system that's not there necessarily, that you kind of need to create on your own. And that's when I just started. I did not go into AA, and I had been part of that in my younger years. I had done Al-Anon and a couple of things, but it wasn't my go-to place.
What took you to Al-Anon? Oh, dating the drinkers.
And family life and all that. That was kind of but
what was your experience like in Al-Anon?
I didn't go to many meetings. I probably went to a couple. It wasn't like I was
just to check it out?
To check it out, to kind of, that was when I went to Alateen when I was really young. And I remember, I think it was just one meeting. Okay. Like that I can remember. And that was that was my first attempt in my life to see if I was crazy or not. It was like, is something not right? Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Am I crazy?
Yeah. But so when I did get sober, Recovery 2.0 was a big go-to place
Tommy
for
Rosen.
me. Tommy Rosen, I did a couple of his retreats, met some people for those retreats. Yes, loved it.
Tell me about your first Tommy Rosen retreat.
Oh, Costa Rica.
Oh,
which
beautiful.
was incredible. I
Was it
honestly,
scary to go?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I mean, now, granted, the anticipation of going anywhere new is always kind of like, and I'm by myself, and but I really was at that point where I was looking for community, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I really was like, I'm kind of done with living inside my own head about
the
this.
isolation.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. I mean, I think there was probably 30 people. It was one of his first ones.
Oh,
I mean,
my
now
goodness.
it's like, I think I went to one of his, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. And it was, I mean, there was 70 people there. It was definitely a huge group of people. And there was an intimacy with that group that was just undeniable. I can remember feeling like, because he's just such a prolific speaker, and he's so engaging, and he just really just speaks from the heart in everything he does.
He's so charismatic.
Oh my gosh. And I just was glued. I mean, that whole week was like, wow. And the people that I met there were amazing. So it's like there was different sort of moments in time where I kind of had community experiences where then I made friends so that mine was a little more organic, I think, than some people's in terms of finding community.
Yeah, organic. I like that.
But
Interesting.
yeah, amazing. And Kia, his wife, is amazing. She's a great yoga instructor and just an amazing teacher.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you, that's interesting because, I'm 12-step based, and but I've spoken to people that are like in Celebrate Recovery or Refuge Recovery. There's Smart. I haven't interviewed anybody from Smart Recovery, but there's and since doing the podcast, I've been exposed to things like She Recovers. And that's a big community. But I just think it's fascinating how some people are able. I don't know how to phrase it correctly, but it's like some people find recovery and stop drinking without like a structured program.
Yeah.
Did you go to rehab or anything like that?
I did not.
No rehab.
No.
So you decided.
Did a lot of yoga, a lot of meditation. Seriously.
No,
I mean, and
okay.
I know that sounds funny, but I did a ton of. No, but it was. I mean, because I think people think of that as like, wow, really? Is it? I did some therapy. I did. I mean,
therapy.
I dabbled. I definitely.
You used you used the word modalities earlier, and that's a word that I'm familiar with. There's therapy.
Yeah,
so you did therapy, yoga.
I kind of created my own rituals in the morning, so I did meditation. I kind of needed to get myself on. I'm a very habitual person. Go figure. Addictive personality.
What? Shocking.
But that really helped. I kind of was able to replace, and the big thing for me was, of course, the time that I used to drink during the day.
Okay.
Which is why in the DayBook I have the witching hour, which was always the time.
Okay. You had a specific time?
Absolutely. I'd
What
come
time?
home from work.
Okay.
Open the bottle of wine.
Okay.
And so it was really important for me I would exercise or I'd take walks during that time because I just needed, literally to me in my mind when I first got sober was like, I just got to get past those 2 hours.
Okay.
If I can get past those 2 hours, I'm good.
Really?
And it was, I have no idea. I think it's different for everybody and everybody, heals in their own way. But to me, it was like replacing that ritual with something else was really...
sufficient substitute is what they say in the rooms.
Yes, that was what it was for me.
Okay, so replacing that ritual with something else. That is brilliant. I'm taking notes because that is brilliant.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, okay, so that's how you manage that your witching hour is you replaced it with something healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And how did you find community outside of like Recovery 2.0?
Yeah, I mean, well, She Recovers has been an amazing community, and I've known Dawn for a number of years. And just the community that's come out of that. I mean, I'm part of her master's coaching program, and just conferences that we go to. It's what's so amazing to me now is that when I think about the community that is in recovery now versus maybe 10 years ago, and I'm saying because 7 years, I'm 7 years sober, although I got sober for a period of time and then I went back to it for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And then really was on that sobriety track, whatever you'd say. I was sober since then. I've been sober. But during that time, I would say 10 years ago, there was very very limited, I think, resources. Now you go online and it's like...
It's exploded. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many. So like tons of recovery podcasts.
Yes.
And every podcast seems to have a Facebook page.
And there's workshops and there's forums and there's classes and there's, so I feel like there's so much more out there offered to people. And there's also a lot of people that have come at it from different angles, which I like because I feel like it just broadens the discussion a little bit more.
It does.
Everybody's kind of gotten here from a different place, and that to me is really interesting.
Yeah, and here is a place. Tell me about what things are like now for you as far in terms of recovery. Like since you've been able to quit and you did all the self-examination.
I mean, I feel like since I've been in recovery, my life has completely changed internally.
Internally.
I mean,
how you feel about yourself.
Oh my God. Well, because writing was a big deal to me. So when I got into recovery, I knew I was going to write a book. I just knew it. Like there were so many things that I actually accumulated along the way as I got sober that I thought, I want to write a book for women who are just trying to figure out the basics. Like
the basics, yeah.
Let me get my bearings. What is the... And so writing really, I think, kind of, I want to say saved me because that helped me. I started a blog, and that was like 5 years ago.
Do you still write the blog?
Still write the blog. It's
What's
now
it called?
Sober Moxie is my website.
Okay.
And then Spark Salon, which is another blog that I started prior to that, which was more of an inspirational blog for women. Sober Moxie's more geared towards sobriety.
Okay.
But having done that and then writing the book, I just feel like incrementally I became more and more confident. And in the book, I write a lot about finding your voice, and that was a really big thing for me to be able to actually get things down on paper and to actually express myself. Then it started to parlay more into what I was doing in my life, and as I was talking with people and as I was setting boundaries and all that kind of thing. It helped to get me there. So
the book is called The Sober Leap, and I have to say this is such a beautiful cover. Like as soon as you handed it to me, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Well, and it's funny because when I wrote the book, I thought, there's a lot of books out there that are super helpful in sobriety. I wanted something that was an easy read for people and that felt uplifting. And so I was like, I'm picking colors that are like bright, I'm not going to have any muted colors. I want because I just feel like sobriety is a wonderful place to be.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to celebrate that. And so that's kind of how it came out. It's a little book with a mighty message, right? It's a tiny book.
The Sober Leap, practical wisdom to create an amazing life beyond addiction. And that's what it's about. Yeah. It's not about the problem. It's about the solution. It's
Absolutely.
Like, what do we really want?
Right.
What do we want?
Like we've gotten past the hard stuff. Now, granted, there's still learning to happen, but
we're always evolving.
But we got past a huge hurdle. So now what are we going to do with our lives?
Now what are we going to do? So I love this. I'm looking at the chapters. So, and these are, look at this. This is I love this. I barely know where to start. Okay, so surrender, feeling the force. Feeling the force, is that about a higher power?
Or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And
okay.
I truly...
Did you grow up with religion?
I did. I was a Catholic.
Of course you were. You were from Chicago.
Of
Irish.
course, exactly. Catholic grade school.
Duh.
Exactly.
Okay. What was your relationship with God growing up?
You know what? I was a churchgoer, but I didn't really get it until I got older, and then I became more spiritual and realized, I don't go to church anymore. I'm just going to say right now,
fine.
that's just how it evolved.
The roof will not cave in at my house.
The roof will not cave in. But I feel like I'm a very spiritual person.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever, however you get there.
Yeah. And do you have a definition of a higher power or God or whatever?
I think of it as a force around me because
the force.
Kind of, and I explain in the book that
Star
there's things that have there's things that have happened to me throughout my life that I've had experiences that make me realize that somebody's up there looking after me.
Do you have one that you can share?
Well, in the beginning of my book, I talk about how I had a friend of mine and I were on Lake Michigan in the dead of winter, taking pictures for a photography class because I was in photography in, I think it was like my sophomore year in high school. And I fell through the ice. And literally, I mean, this is one of those experiences that, of course, now, many years later, I think back on that. But while it was happening, I was not thinking that anything was strange. It was just, oh my gosh, what do we do?
Yeah.
My friend pulled me out of, I literally was in a full-on parka, the whole thing.
Oh
and I
my
can remember I was
God.
holding my
Were you
camera.
submerged?
I was up
your
to my
shoulders?
shoulders. Holding my camera, which of course it's like any
Don't
kind of
ram the
situation.
camera!
Like, what am I trying to keep the equipment?
I didn't spill my beer.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Right.
And so I remember doing that, and
Okay.
she literally, full body, just pulled me up and kind of pulled me on top of her
Right, to get you out.
to get me out. And I can remember we drove home in complete silence. It was one of those things
You're in shock.
and you're in high school, so of course you're thinking
You're in
you're
high
totally, like nothing could ever happen to you. That was
Right.
just an interesting thing. And then I can remember just lying in bed that night thinking, what the heck just happened? Like, how did that? And of course, that tucked away in the back of my mind for many, many years. And then after I got sober, I kept having dreams about it, which was really interesting. And I realized, like, that was a sign to me from way back when of, like, subsequently, my life was saved again when I got sober. Like,
Yeah.
I look at some of these things; they're not coincidences to me. So yeah, I absolutely believe that there is,
A force.
there's
of
a force
energy.
out there that is looking.
You
after
don't want
us.
to call it God?
I don't call it God. No, I don't. I don't know that I'm resistant to calling it God. I just don't.
You just don't. You
I
think
don't.
of it as a force
I think
of
of it as
energy.
a force that's looking after me. Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Because God is a topic that, people have to. That's a big topic.
I know it
gotta-
totally is.
You gotta wrestle. We wrestle with that a lot,
Yeah.
especially in 12-step. God is prominent.
Yeah.
And I heard somebody recently say that if you have a problem with God, chances are you have a problem with somebody else's God.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Like, we get to redefine what that means. It's a word.
Yeah.
It's a word. And so you get to redefine what that word means for you.
Yeah, because what's so interesting to me is I always think of it almost as it's a limiting word to me in that I think it's energy around you. I feel like there's more to it than just a particular. And growing up as Catholic, you think of God as a person and an entity and not a. You put sort of these definitions around it, and I think I
You're
just
given
don't.
definitions.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
given
God,
the
yeah.
definitions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that idea that you have redefined it to something that makes sense.
Yeah.
To
just
you.
to me, everybody I think has their own
Yeah.
idea of it.
Do you feel that this energy is loving?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very supportive. And I've, the more that I've grown up and the more that I've kind of come into my own, I realize that's a really comforting thing to have that and to know that and really believe it.
That it's loving. Do you feel that this force has a plan for you?
I don't know.
This is not a leading question.
No, I know. I was thinking, I feel like because that in a way is like, I feel like I have control over the outcome in my life by the decisions that I'm going to make.
Okay.
So having something already planned for me, I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of an interesting question.
I ask because I had a friend that passed away, and it made me. Somebody said, "Oh, God has a plan," and I was like, "Does he? Does God have a plan? Because how could this be part of the plan? God needs to make sense to me,
Right.
And so, I like to think of God as being my co-creator, that gives me the power to create and to get through difficult situations. But I don't, that's just an idea I started questioning.
Yeah.
Like, is there a plan? I'm not sure.
Really? Yeah, I don't know that I believe that specifically.
Yeah, maybe that's not an important question, but I think when bad things happen, people start to question
Yes.
like a higher power. Like when bad things happen, I heard a lady share this morning that she lost a child at she's pregnant at 39 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, I had both my sons before that time, right? And so
Yeah.
she was, in this support group where all the women began to question and doubt whether there was this higher power. Like, how could this happen? And in my mind, I sort of make sense of it as this higher power gives me the power, the strength or whatever to get through situations. Like I do, like surrender is a big part of that. And
well, and I think also when you think about in anything in life that we go through, that there are always lessons learned. There are always things that are going to come out of situations that we may not see yet. Right. And it's not to say that anything that tragic would ever be like, that's not to sound trite about that at all.
Right.
But like, I think I look at it through a different lens now of adversity being something that's going to hopefully get me someplace else.
Right.
And I don't think I felt that way before. I think that especially in recovery, when you know that there was some really just dark stuff that then you kind of popped out the other end of, and you're still of course learning, and but that had to happen in order for this to take place. So there's got to be something to say about that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of how I look at
it. Well, listen, it's a big question that has many facets and not a lot of concrete answers. I feel like the answers are different for everyone, but it's important to ask the questions. Do you pray, or is meditation part of it?
I pray every so often, yes.
Yeah.
I do more meditation though. Than
more
prayer.
listening.
More listening, more getting quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So let's transition a little bit about, when did you write the Sober
Leap? I wrote that 2 years ago.
Okay.
So that came out in an ebook a year prior to this past May, and then in early June of this year, it came out in paperback.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the planner came after that?
The DayBook came out just a month ago, which of course it's like my little labor of love. Yes.
Oh my goodness. So just in time for the She
Recovers
event.
conference, yes, which is where she debuted. I'm calling her she.
Yeah, I get it. She debuted. No, this is beautiful. I really love this, and we'll have to.
You.
I was telling you earlier that I'm gonna con you or push you or drag you into a webinar. But no, I think it's so important because in the new year, people tend to. It's a good time to sort of re-examine. What did I accomplish this year? Where am I? Where do I want to go?
Yes, goal setting, big thing.
Goal setting is a big thing. Like, I don't do resolutions. I don't do New Year's resolutions.
I don't either anymore.
Yeah.
I did for years, and then
I know it's kind of a pointless exercise.
Yeah, it is. But I think goal setting. I mean, and especially more short-term goals. I don't like the idea of like, oh, what are you going to accomplish this year necessarily? I like to chunk it out. I literally look at it in like 3-month increments. But that's just the way I typically map out what I'm doing. But
well, I actually think that's super practical.
Yeah.
Right, because those are like manageable bite size. You get wins. I think we tend to, what's that saying? We underestimate what we can do in the long run and overestimate what we can do. Yeah. I stole that. I think it was a Tony Robbins thing, or I don't know. But it's true. It's like over the long haul, small little baby steps over the long haul can get you to amazing places.
Absolutely.
Right. So, but sometimes we go into things with these illusions of grandeur.
Yes.
And then it's like you don't have any wins. If you don't get any wins along the way,
you're not keeping yourself supported as you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that lack of support that we feel unmotivated and we give up.
Yeah.
So I love this idea that you have it structured so that you get small wins along the way, and these wins build on top of each other.
Right, and I also think that it's a little bit less intimidating, at least to me, when I'm looking at a book and I say to myself, okay, this is what am I going to do for the next 3 months? Like, what are my short-term goals? I could always have long-term goals there too, but like, where do I want to be just the next couple of months?
Yeah,
and it just seems less daunting than like,
right,
okay, what's going to happen next fall? It's like
a year from now. I'm all about instant gratification.
I know, me too. I like the quick wins and celebrating and like the little incremental steps, you know?
No, we need the little wins to keep us inspired and keep us moving forward.
Yeah.
So, no, that's brilliant. So we'll have to do like a little class or webinar or something to talk about how to use it, how to use this.
Because it's a pretty simple system, but
It's a simple system, but it's nice to be able to do it in a group or get some support or have some accountability.
Oh, absolutely.
I love all that. So,
my goal with this is to do that, is to build community around it, because I really believe that we support each other. You know, you have your own personal goals and aspirations, but I think when you have it within a group and people can share kind of what they're learning, even just about themselves, it's a really powerful thing. So.
No, self-examination is huge because, I mean, it's like, how do you, it's so funny. We spend so much time disconnecting that when we start reconnecting, you have to try on different things to see what fits. So, this is a good process of reconnecting, keeping track of, and boundaries are a funny thing because you don't know where they are until you cross them.
It's so true. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as you were saying, if you find yourself in a place of, I don't feel good and I don't know why, you have this, book that you can come back to and like look back what happened earlier in the week, and then.
Yeah, well, and I also think the good part about having that ability to look back is there's also to see how far you've come.
Yes.
Like we always forget about that when we think of like being in recovery and, oh my gosh, it's so, the challenges that we're facing and how are we going to get past this, that, or the other thing. But there are some really wonderful things that happen to us in recovery that you want to be able to remember, and you want to be able to say, okay, this is like between now and maybe a year ago, look how far I've come.
Look how far I've come. Yeah, that is so important to measure and look back to see, instead of comparing ourselves to somebody else.
Yes.
Look back at your own trail and see how far you've come.
Yeah.
Oh, this is brilliant. I'm so grateful that you and I connected as She Recovers.
It's like crazy that we're neighbors.
I know. So funny. And listen, I could talk to you all day about
I know.
podcast, and here we are at an hour. I typically end the podcast with asking my guests, how do you stay sober? It's ODAT, one day at a time.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. So
okay.
how do you take care of your recovery? Do you have a weekly process, a daily process?
I think it's back to my daily routine. Like,
morning?
Yeah, I have a morning. Well, and I record things at night. I mean,
you
my
use
DayBook,
your
I honestly
DayBook.
do. And I mean, but it would be a journal, if not that, right? So previously, before I had that, every night kind of doing a little recap, it just helps me to kind of reset. Like in the morning, I get up and I feel like it's, okay, if I can meditate even for 5 minutes, I can put myself in kind of a good place to face the day. Because I also feel like in recovery, just as far as taking care of your central nervous system is really important.
Yeah. So important.
So like physically, to me, just being in that state is really helpful. And then at the end of the day, I kind of get excited to be able to write in my journal.
You do.
Just because I like to reflect. Like I like it more now than I ever used to. Let me be honest.
We have more wins now.
I have more wins now, but I also I feel like I'm more self-aware now, so I can say like, did I do well today? Did I not do so well? And
right.
So but having those two bookends is really helpful.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. Like in A, they have the 10th step, which is the 10th step is, you look at your day and you have like a balance sheet, what did I do right?
Right.
Where did I fall short? And then, so that's good information to have because
Totally.
It's not only, it's a recognition of, I'm human, maybe I made some mistakes, what could I have done different? Right? And then, what did I do right? Let's focus, let's do more of that.
Yes.
Let's do more of that. And I think it's so, sometimes I get caught up in what went wrong. I forget. I literally forget to think about what went right.
Yes.
And in most cases, there's a lot that goes right.
Yes. Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, what we focus on expands, and so it's important to focus on the positive.
I know, it's
surprise! Oh my goodness. Well, we didn't even talk about finding your voice, so maybe we'll have to come back.
That's going to be, but that'll be our next episode.
Okay. I need a step-by-step guide because that's so important for women.
Totally. No, I agree. I totally agree. Well, I will say, I'm going to say one thing.
Yes.
And this is just a little like
say whatever you want to say.
Trick. So I was told, this was a while back, when I was just writing the book and I was thinking about like ways to really feel empowered, right? And I go to there's a shop in downtown Willow Glen that is like a metaphysical. Have you been there? The Connection?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love that store.
Okay.
And I went and bought, so blue stones are supposed to help with your throat chakra.
I didn't know that.
Which is like this. Which is why I have this ring.
Okay.
And so I bought just like a stone, a sapphire, any kind of stone. I can't think of what the other name of the other stone is, but and wore it around my neck. And it would remind me and especially at work. I don't know why this was like really powerful for me at work. It would remind me, and I would have it around my neck, and I would always think like, if you're in a meeting or if you're talking with somebody or somebody's asking your opinion, and that split second that you have before you want to actually say something, I would kind of touch it, and it would
remind you?
It would remind me. I mean, it's a silly little thing.
It's not,
but
though.
it's super helpful.
Yeah, it's not. It's so funny because it's the little things.
Yes.
It's the little things that change everything.
And, I mean, it's really just a change in your perception
That's
about
it.
what you have to say, frankly,
Yeah.
right? And whether or
Yeah.
not it's worthy of being said at times.
Yeah.
And so it's just a reminder of like, no, you're
This is
totally
important.
strong.
I have a voice.
Yes.
Don't
So
be
it's just
afraid to use
That's like
it.
a little tip.
I love that. Blue stones.
Blue stones.
Throat chakra. I'll write it down. I will be putting that in the show
Okay.
notes.
I love it. I love it.
Listen, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for
blessing the
having
house
me.
with your
Oh, this was
presence.
wonderful. This was such
Yeah.
a fun Saturday.
Yeah, and we'll definitely find a way to bring more of you to the world.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Good job.
Okay.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. One last thing before you go, if you enjoyed the podcast today, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher and leave a review. And if you'd like to make a donation to the podcast and help me keep the lights on, you can do so by visiting odatchat.com. There's a donation button or membership button on the right-hand side. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us.